My plan was to do a Dino Crisis 3 video immediately after I completed the disappointing yet understandably popular Dino Crisis 2. That was over 3 months ago. Turns out I couldn't bring myself to finish it. I've tried to make progress on it many times to no avail. Each time I booted it up, I would play about 30 to 40 minutes before turning it off. At one point, I believed I'd seen enough and I was prepared to make a video based on about 3 hours of gameplay. Then I had a rather devious spark of an idea. Ever met someone who understands when they're being targeted with reverse psychology, but their stubbornness and desire to prove others wrong outweigh their ability to acknowledge it? Luckily, my brother is one such person. So all I had to do was task him with a challenge like, "Trust me dude, this is so bad, there's no way you'll finish it." And just like that, he was off. Suffering through every minute, claiming the 7 hours or so he played was the longest 7 hours of his life. You know, there's a reason why there's no Dino Crisis 4, and now I completely understand why. As always, I'd ask that you please leave a like and maybe sub if you enjoy talking games. And with that, let's get into the video. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, let's take it from the top. Starting with Dino Crisis 1, which I absolutely loved, saying it gives the original Resident Evil a run for its money. And then we immediately jumped to part 2, and I made a complete turnaround, saying I wasn't a fan of the shift to the action genre, but I now understand that people still hold a soft spot for it. That brings us to this abomination, and I'm not going to waste any time telling you how I feel about this one. As I mentioned with part 2 that I get that there's fans of the game, but when it comes to part 3, I don't believe one such person exists. If you are a fan of the third game, I suggest you have yourself psychologically evaluated. This game is bad. There's not a lot of games I consider to be bad, but this is definitely one of them. There's always this thought when playing something that even if a game is not for me, I can see how someone else might enjoy it. But Dino Crisis 3 is a dull, confusing and soulless mess of a game that has no idea what made the first game good. Years into the future, a team of Spec Op recon agents equipped with jetpacks are stranded on a dinosaur-infested, seemingly sentient spaceship after it destroys their own. Now, that might sound batshit crazy, but I would argue that sounds right up my alley. The setup is positively intriguing, but unfortunately, it's all downhill from here. Starting with the fact that there's 2 directors on this title. Not that that's inherently a bad thing, just look at The Last of Us 2, who in fact has 3 credited directors, but learning that the game was co-directed made all the sense in the world. From the beginning, it very quickly became clear that the game lacks a sense of direction. You get the feeling that it doesn't know exactly what it wants to do and be. Nowhere is this more evident than when you try to do a platforming segment. The game wants you to do what should be some basic platforming, but its terrible camera system gets in the way of that. Every so often, usually during a jump, the perspective will change suddenly, causing your character to move in a direction you never intended. This made some sequences an absolute nightmare to navigate. What makes it difficult is not the platforming itself, but the fact that the game is constantly fighting you on any action you make. Nothing about it feels smooth, fun or rewarding. It simply feels at odds with itself, in that they've created all these platforming segments, but never accounted for how the camera functions. Almost like these 2 aspects of the game were developed and introduced independently. I struggle to comprehend how a game is this poorly thought out and gets past even the first playtest. It truly feels like no one playtested it, because if they had, it would take them less than a minute to realize this does not play well at all. Another major pain point for me was the level design and mission objectives. While I would usually discuss these aspects separately, I feel it more appropriate to discuss them as a whole. Reason being, every single mission objective is a series of unlocking doors and rooms. sending you from one end of the ship to the other. If your objective isn't looking for a higher security clearance card, it's probably going to be activate or disable a reactor panel or something. This game could have been a lot shorter had they cut out all this back and forth bullshit. On top of that is how the ship itself is constantly shifting, making it even more annoying when you have to alter the ship before you can get to where you need. Now, I'm not new to fetch quests, but when simply navigating the ship makes you want to tear your hair out, it quickly becomes tedious and off-putting. That is how I describe Dino Crisis 3 as a whole. By the way, it's not something I say lightly. I generally tend to cut these games a lot of slack, sometimes a lot more than I should, because I can see their intentions, and even though they might not execute well on them, I can appreciate the effort. To me, this game does not put in the effort, and the cynic in me believes that this third installment was a greedy cash grab that sought to make a quick buck off the Dino Crisis name. I'm actually getting heated talking about this. Getting back to the terrible level layout, what makes traversal even more unbearable is the terrible map design, controls for said map, lack of a mini-map, and just the overall confusing nature of the camera design. Which, if it isn't clear by now, the camera is mostly fixed, but it changes so frequently that it's easy to get turned around, even after consulting the map. And the end result ends up being hours spent in the map trying to figure out how to get to the next raid area.
You just can't get enough of it, can you? Well, this is for the captain. Enjoy!
As for how Dino Crisis 3 plays, well, my view of the game is not going to miraculously pick up from here all of a sudden. No, it's one of the few games whose gameplay I would describe as soulless. There is no fun to be had in its gunplay. Most encounters can be passed by simply spamming shoot while scrolling your phone, which is exactly what I did at some points. Encounters can only be described as necessary and something to do while moving from place to place. Shooting enemies is a boring chore. Enemies are simple and do next to nothing that warrants a change up of strategy in any way. Fights all play out the same way. Zip around with your jetpacks and spam square until everything dies. Mind you, that sometimes can go on for a long time, to the point where you might think that you're doing something wrong. Eventually the music will die out and you know you passed the encounter. And you know what? This might be the only positive thing I can say about the game. The music is pretty good, specifically in the save room and one of the combat songs. Beyond that, there's one or two boss designs that I thought were pretty awesome, and some of the cutscenes were done pretty well. Look, if it sounds like I'm reaching, it's because I am. There's really nothing else I can commend this game on. I'm gonna keep this video a bit short because if I keep going, it's just gonna be a dog pile on this game, and I'm trying to be better about that sort of thing. So in closing, a Dino Crisis 3 video was something I felt obligated to complete, even if that meant I personally couldn't complete the game. In the end, it's a directionless, soulless, draining slog that has very few moments of anything remotely resembling interesting gameplay. I struggled to complete it and my brother regretted every moment playing it. I cannot recommend it in any capacity, which is something I don't think I've ever said before. I have no idea who would enjoy this game for what it is, and if you do, please tell me what it is you like about it. I've played many games that I understand is not made for me, but I can see how someone else might enjoy it. Dino Crisis 2 is a prime example of one such game, but this is just a mediocre mess that Capcom would do well to forget as they dig through their catalogue of dormant IP and inevitably get around to doing the Dino Crisis series. Okay, that was a bit of a heated one, but I want to thank you if you made it this far. You know what to do. Leave a like, sub if you enjoy talking games, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.